Welcome, everyone, to Monday Afternoon Roundtable. Got my two brothers with me today, Jason and Tim. Good to see both of you.
Oh, yeah. Good to see you.
We're going to talk about a current event today, a recent murder that occurred in the state of Idaho at University of Idaho, actually, or right off campus, involving Brian Koberger. And I'm sure all of you have heard of this case. It's on the news media every day. I'm getting downloads about every 15 minutes on the case because they're unsealing some of the documents, the affidavits as far as the charging documents go. But it's a unique case. But what I want to preface the case on is Brian Koberger is innocent until proven guilty, and that's the important part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And anything in this case that we talk about is presumptive on our part based on previous law enforcement investigators, private investigators, how we handle murder cases that we work. And we're going to mention some names in this thing, but they're all public record names that have been mentioned before as part of the case. And what I want us to do, the three of us, talk about from a law enforcement perspective, how this case is kind of turned into the big media profile that it has. You got 4 victims, 3 female college students and 1 male college student. Just to give you a little background on the case, Brian Koberger was a Washington State University grad student. Ironically, he was studying to be a PhD in criminology, which kind of gives it a little bit of twist, in my opinion. He was arrested 6 weeks after the slaying. He was arrested on December 30th, 2022, in the state of Pennsylvania, where his parents live, in the Catskill Mountains. He was attending, of course, the Washington State University. The 4 college students were at the University of Idaho, which I did in research. It's about a 10-minute drive. It must have been close to the state line on each side.
They also said that those 2 universities work together and share
Is
resources.
that right? I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. It makes sense because they're so close. Moscow, Idaho, which I had never heard of.
That's where the apartment is.
Yeah, and it's the police department there's got about 35 officers, I think. I've been impressed with the police department's ability to keep this confidential, this case. It's under a gag order, which is important, and I think that's part of the protocol in the state of Idaho, that they have to keep all the criminal murder cases under wrap until the case goes to court. And that makes sense.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do. I agree with that. And I think the police chief James Fry is the chief of police there. And I think he's worked hard to make sure everything is kept confidential. There's been one leak that I could see, and Fox News picked that up. I was doing the research, where one of the police officers in Pennsylvania provided information to a friend from a friend. You know how that goes. Okay, this guy was stalking these individuals and all this stuff, and I think that was premature to even say, but when you have that many widespread of a law enforcement agencies from several different states involved, you're going to have leaks in the case itself. But I believe he's done a good job in keeping this quiet.
He's done a great job on his press conferences.
He has,
that's where you can either blow it or keep it sealed.
Right.
And you have to be in control of the information that you want out there. You've got to let some information out in order for the public to help you, but you can't let too much out. So there's a right mix to it.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I found in the research as well, the police department also did the contract work for the university. They were the university police as well, which is, I haven't seen that too much. In most states, they have their own, or most university systems have their own police or security component. They had a security group that worked there on the university, but the police handled all the crimes. I pulled up their Cleary report, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's kind of the crime stats for the university. Jean Cleary was an individual. She was murdered at a university, and after her murder, the Congress come out with, okay, you universities, you have to notify your student bodies and their parents and the faculty staff of every crime that occurs on that campus. And it changed the outlook pretty much on how law enforcement responds to university crimes. But I looked at theirs, and theirs was fairly low. When you look at other colleges that same size, they only had one negligent homicide 3 years ago, which was probably a motor vehicle crash, what it sounds like, had no murders. They had probably half a dozen sexual assault cases in a 3 year period, which is below the normal average for universities. But I wanted to see kind of what their numbers were. These 4 victims lived off campus in a house. And the house is important where it was located because it's 3 levels. And you can gain access by 2 different levels. The first level was kind of a subterranean, a half basement. Half of it was underground. You could enter from that direction. That was the front of the house. And then the second level was from the back entrance, which was ground level as well because of the hillside. And they had sliding glass doors. And then it had a third level with bedrooms that had sliding glass doors that led out to a balcony. 4 victims that we said, 3 females, 1 male. The victims were, I'm going to name them by name, Kaylee Concaves, Madison Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. And I may have messed up some of those names. I hope I didn't. But those were the 4 that were in the house that were killed. There were 2 other people in the house. They were
all were asleep.
They were on the ground floor, the first floor. The 2 of them were killed on the second floor, and 2 were killed on the third floor. And the way it looks, based on some of the information, that they were all killed in a bedroom. You know, and according to one of the parents, that it was quick, and that was the only relief that he had, that she died quickly.
Do we know how they died? Were they stabbed?
By knife wounds
okay.
with a fixed blade knife is the way they described it, and which was probably a hunting style knife to do that much damage. The speculation from the 2 that were not involved downstairs, that the suspect could have not even known that there was a downstairs based on the way he come in. But there's a lot of confusion in this case because a briefing just come out a while ago that one of the people in the house that lived through the incident that was not harmed actually saw a masked man in the house. That just came out on the news blotter a while ago. Let's see. You know, the chief first said the only issue that the chief had, I think it was all this. He had never been in a case like this, and none of us have that many people being killed at one time. But he kind of, I think, not overreacted. But when he was giving he said it was not a targeted case. Then he come back and said it was a targeted case. I think he was trying to be careful on how much information he actually gave out. Did a little background on Brian Koberger, the suspect in the case. And, of course, he went to high school in Pennsylvania. He lived in a fairly nice upscale home in Pennsylvania with his parents. He looked like he might have been overweight a little bit when he was in high school. And according to some of the people that they talked to that knew him, that went to school with him, said he was bullied a little bit in school. But they also said he was a bully later on in school because, you know, different people that actually went to school with him, which I found to be a little bit unique and might lead to the motive for the case. Some say it was a crime of passion because of the severity of the wounds. And you both have probably seen that in some of the cases that you've worked, where multiple stab wounds that they're taking it out on the
heat of
victim.
passion.
Yes, yeah. But we don't know that because there's not really any information. But the officers did say, some of the officers that were there says the worst crime scene that they had ever seen, and some of those guys have been on 20, 25 years, so it says a lot. The Ethan Chapin was the male victim. He was a freshman. He was a frat boy. He was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. His girlfriend, Zana, was a sorority member of the Pi Beta sorority house. So that, you know, I don't know if there was a connection there. I don't know if the suspect had done some kind of research on these individuals and was able to put something together based on their sorority and fraternity activity. I don't know that, but I just found that a little bit odd. the Moscow police initially responded to a 911 call where one of the surviving, or one that was not injured, called 911 and said there was an unresponsive person in the house. That's why they went. And when they get there, they find, of course, the crime scene. I don't know if they were talking to unresponsive because they were all, I think, drinking the night before. They'd all been out partying at different places. And I don't know if they were talking about one of them that survived or one of those that were killed. One would think unresponsive, and they see all this blood, and there was obviously a lot of it, that they would think it was more than just someone being unresponsive. So I don't know that. That was a little bit odd too.
And it might have just been the way they categorized it, the call that came in.
Could have been.
What you were saying about one of the survivors seeing somebody in the house.
Yeah, that just come out.
That was brand new
information.
release.
Yeah,
Okay.
that they said
I've
they
not
saw
heard that.
an individual walking through the house with a mask on, and I don't know if the suspect saw this person or not. It's unclear on that, but it was from one of the reliable news sources. One of the news agencies put that the suspect was stopped twice going through the state of Indiana. His father drove from Pennsylvania to Washington State to pick his son up, the suspect, and drove him back. During the drive back, as we all have seen on the news, he was stopped by Indiana State Police. The word now is that the FBI asked the state police to stop him to look at his hand to see if there was any injuries on his hand, which that's normal. I mean, we've done all three have done that, where they'd asked the highway patrol to stop a car just to gain information. Of course, they had to have probable cause, and this probable cause, the officer walked up to the car and said, "You were following another car too close." Well, hell, we all do that. So, that
pretextual
was
stop.
pretext, yes. And so, but the only thing I found unusual about that, Jason, was when the officer walked up to the car, the trooper, he put his arm on the window of the car. The window was rolled down. The father was in the passenger seat. Brian was driving, but the officer's arm kind of blocked the view of his body-worn camera, and you couldn't even see Brian's hands. So I felt that was a little bit unusual, and I thought, well, maybe the stop was an actual vehicle stop. But according to all reports, they asked him to do it for that simple reason. They brought the legal team. They first had a public defender that represented him for the first appearance hearing. He was extradited from the state of Pennsylvania. He waived that extradition, and that's just a process. And he was flown by a state police aircraft from Pennsylvania to Idaho, and so he's there in Idaho now. But the fact that some of the media are really trying to track this first appearance, and again, that's just routine, and they're not really going to go into the details of the crime during that. But the legal team, since his parents have hired a criminal defense lawyer, pretty well known from what I understand, and she's hired her own crime scene team to come in and do a reconstruction of the crime scene. And if you recall, the police had hired a crime scene cleaning crew to come in, just like that was used in the scene that we worked, where they were going to clean the crime scene up, and the judge said, "No, you're not going to do that. We got to leave it open for the defense to look at it." And that was a good move. Thank God they did that. Had they not, that would have probably been, reason for the defense. But anyhow, Nordell Scientific Group had come in to do this, and he's kind of well known in the reconstruction world. And he's going to look at everything. He's going to look underneath everything and do photographs and do measurements of every inch of that house. He's looking at blood stains and different things that he can help with the criminal defense. Again, the house was a 3-story house. The killer may not have actually known about that first floor, that basement entrance from the front of the house. And in all the news reports, you can see the back part of the house from the roadway. So he may have been watching. Who knows? He could have been stalking these individuals. There's no way of knowing until that affidavit's released from the gag order. There's another unique component of the case. Because he was a PhD student, they have to do all kind of research in their studies, and he was researching the BTK murders. I don't know if you remember those or not. Dennis Rader was the person. He killed 10 people in
Bound,
Kansas.
torture, kill.
Yeah, bound, torture, kill. That's the acronym for BTK. I didn't know that until I had to look it up, and it's good that you did. But he was researching the lady that did most of the criminology work on that case for Dennis Rader, that was looking into his killing techniques and why he was doing what he was doing. So they're thinking there may be a tie there. What I think the next steps for police, what they're going to do is they're going to do forensics on the cell phones of not only the suspect but the victims, to see where they had gone, who the calls they had made, their social networks, the crime scene forensics, the blood stains, everything there in that house.
I'm going to speculate here. I bet you the forensic downloads of the phones have already been done, and it's what led to them pointing at him.
And you're right, and that just come out as well. They show a map, a GPS map of when he left the University of Washington to when he drove to Moscow, Idaho, and then back. But they're also just reported that he either forgot something, but he went back to the scene a couple hours after the original murders, that he may have gone back to the scene, maybe to cover his tracks a little bit better, or for whatever reason. But in the GPS diagram of the vehicle, the Nissan, I'm not a Nissan, but I can't remember the make of the car now. But his vehicle was traced back to the scene, or was seen at the scene earlier.
And that vehicle and whatever clothes he was wearing is going to be full of blood or DNA, you would think.
And that's how they supposedly come up with him after the
DNA is what they were praising.
Right. But they called it. They looked at historical DNA. According to one report that I read, they brought in a family member and extracted DNA from that individual to link it to the suspect, which I felt was a little bit unusual. That maybe a different kind of police approach than I'm used to. The defense team, they're going to have to look. They're going to have to rely on their investigators to look through all the discovery, to look at all the witnesses, if there are any, all the people that were around the victims before they were murdered, to kind of look at the before, at, and after the crime, to make sure that they covered all their bases.
Did they have any assistance, and you might not know this, did they have any assistance from state or federal agencies?
They did, yes. The Idaho State Police, the Washington State Patrol, and FBI, Pennsylvania State Police, of course, from where the arrest was made. The colonel from the Pennsylvania State Police did a press conference to let everybody know, to keep everybody informed what was going on from their end, from the arrest itself. What are some of the other things that law enforcement is going to be looking for from this part of the investigation?
I think they're going to get probably an FBI agent to do a profile of this guy, because I think, just from what you're saying, and I'm an armchair quarterbacking this, is he thinks he's smarter than the police.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, I'm going to get away with this is my ultimate, from my education being a doctoral student, I'm going to commit a crime that I'm going to get away with. And I think he probably targeted one of the two girls that's not dating the other guy for whatever, maybe wanting to go out with her, and then somehow the group said, no, you need to stay away from him, he's a weirdo or something. And he's like, well, there's going to be that's what I'm going to get.
That's my group.
Yeah, that's just me from what you just said. I mean, but I think they could build a profile, psychological profile, that would match his profile, with a suspect profile. I think they've got that. They're going to have the DNA. He did give them I did hear he was giving them a statement partially and then lawyered up after about 5 or 10 minutes. I did hear that on the news.
But the DNA, if they're praising that, I'm sure they had to have found some of his DNA at the crime scene.
And I bet you they found some of the victim's DNA in the car, or
Most likely.
See, they didn't have the car
until
once they ruled him as a number one suspect.
Somehow they had to pick him out as a suspect, and I bet that come from the phone calls.
Probably. Yeah. But wonder why, Jason, they waited so long. Why did they elect to say, okay, let's let him go ahead and go back to the state of Pennsylvania instead of making that arrest.
They may have
Early
made
on.
some mistakes early, or didn't have. I mean, I'm not trying to put them down or anything, but they may not have known exactly what to do until somebody come in and helped them. But it's better to wait.
Time is on your side.
Yeah, and not screw it up
I
than to
think
go
so.
too quick and mess it up and lose the case. So that's what they were erring on.
It doesn't sound right to the public because they're saying, well, you let
Yeah.
True.
a hardened murderer go across country, but they may have not had, maybe the DA said, we need a little more.
And what they could have done if that was the case, they let, hey, Pennsylvania know, hey, this
Yes.
guy's over there. You keep an eye on him.
Yes.
We're thinking he's going to be our guy. Just keep an eye out. We're going to be in constant contact with you if y'all can be back with us. And just surveillance them till they get what it might have just took some time. I don't.
In this suspect profile that you were talking about, I think it's going to show that the individual was highly intelligent, which it looks like he is. I think he was, I don't know what his motive could have been. Like you said, it could have been he may have wanted to date one of these girls and she may have given him the cold shoulder, or it could have been something that in his research that he goes, well, if I can do this, then I can be a better instructor or a teacher if I can actually do the crime.
And I think he has no or had no intentions of going in law enforcement. I think he wanted to be in the field of education. I don't think he had any, just from what I'm hearing.
From his high school days, they said he wanted to be an Army Ranger.
Okay.
And that was some of his stuff in the high school annuals that the media kind of done, the research that they've done. And I put together some of the profiles of a psychopath, the psychopathic killer. And you got the Ted Bundys, would be the first one that comes to mind. But in the 8 characteristics, the first one being charm, where they, try to charm the individual with their good looks or their a savoir-faire, where they can get someone to get on their side. And then they're those that are cold and calculated murderers. And he could have fit that profile as well. And then you have the superior psychopath, the one that thinks he's smarter than everyone.
I think that's what you got
And
there.
very well could be. And you got the schizoid psychopath, and that kind of explains itself. The deceptional and the situational psychopath, narcissist and boastful, I think he may have fit in that category a little bit as well. And then the thrill-seeking psychopath, which is the Jeffrey Dahmer type individual.
I bet they could go back, and I'm sure the University of Idaho has several video cameras. They can go backwards and monitor his movements, and I bet he's following one of those girls. I bet it goes backwards
If they go back
I
far
bet you're
enough,
right.
they could do
enough,
that.
and it would take a long time. It would take several man hours, but it would be worth. It would show a pattern of him being in the same area, getting closer and closer, maybe in the cafeteria, maybe even small talking with one of them. And they may have even been a student in one of his classes that he was doing student teaching.
It could have been.
This is all speculation.
And the fact that him returning back to the scene leads me to believe that he was that as he's leaving, he's going, oh shit, I forgot to do this or that, or this could have been left, and I'm going to go back and cover my tracks a little bit better. I don't know that. I'm just speculating on that as well.
Well, you have a lot of arsonists go back to the scene to watch what happened.
Yep.
And he could have been going thinking the police is going to come, and they just never did.
But the police department and the investigators in this case, they got to get it right because they only have one shot at this, and they got to get it right. And so far, it looks like law enforcement's covered their bases. They may have hit a couple bumps in the road, but I think you're right. I think they said, instead of messing this case up from the get-go, let's give him a little bit of room and see what he does. Some say, was his father involved? I don't know. The fact that his father went and got him, if my daughter would call, and I'm going to say this too, we both have kids in college, girls in college, and this scares me to death.
Well, this is the same, like, if they had 35 police officers in that town, where my daughter goes to school in Boone has 35 police officers in that town.
It's about the same
I mean,
size.
it's probably going to be similar
Yeah.
layout.
Yeah, but ASU has their own
Police
force.
department, which is
That's
probably larger.
and more equipped, better equipped than
That's
the
for
police department.
Yeah.
Right. And the student population there at the University of Idaho is about 10,000. And what's that? It's give or take. It's probably more than that.
I'm sure it's more than that. Yeah.
But but that's why it's important for those universities to have their own police department. And I've worked with several of them to where I go out and do the on-sites for the accreditation component. And they've got the equipment they need. They've got the manpower normally that they can have at their disposal. But they have to be up on all police aspects of investigation, just like any other police
Absolutely.
department.
Well, you got to think, if you've got that many people in a small area, you're working probably a precinct in New York City, the same
right.
same
That's
kind of size,
Makes sense.
in that geographic area.
But most of our listeners probably have never heard of the Clery Act
No.
and how important that congressional piece of legislation was, because parents, these universities, of course, they didn't want parents to know, there was a
They don't want the
sexual
media,
offense.
nobody to
Of
know.
course they didn't. So they put it under the rug, and now they have to report that. And if they find out there's violations in the Clery Act research or the development of the Clery Act report, then they're gonna have to answer
They'll
to
pay
that.
fines.
Yeah, and it's just it's a good thing, and it's based on an actual homicide that occurred on campus. Anything else you can think of that?
From the defense point of view, it's going to be a tough case because, like you said, I think law enforcement's got their ducks in a row. It sounds like.
But the good thing about the defense investigation, everything's really what you got to do is go back and double check what the police does to make sure that they've done everything they're supposed to, and it looks like they have. And again, this suspect is innocent until he's proven guilty. And anything we have said is based on our experience only, not anything, and based on some of the reports that we've read.
Do you think the defense has even filed for discovery yet?
Oh, I'm sure they have. They have to. There's a certain amount of time that the criminal defense attorneys will have to. They'll have to file and make requests, motions to receive the discovery, and they got a lot of, like Jason said, they got a hell of a lot of work to do ahead of them. That was a white Hyundai Elantra. It was what he was driving.
Do we have anything as far as released publicly? Anything about the coroner's report or the autopsy reports?
Not that I've heard, because of the gag order, and I agree with those gag orders. I wish North Carolina would do that. In some cases they do, but not every case. So, and I think Idaho, you have to do that on any serious felony.
Here's another thing that would show towards him. If he's a criminology student, he has learned the science of crime, not so much the law part, but the science. He had to have made, this is going to sound awful, but he had to make killing strikes very soon in the assault, or the other people in the house are going to hear it.
Right.
For instance, he can't just take his time killing the person. He's going to have to kill them right then, so they're not going to be screaming or fighting or bringing attention. If he got 4 victims and 2 people were in that same house, were slept through it, he knew exactly where to stab and how to stab and what to do.
Yeah, and he's a student of criminal justice. He understands
Or criminology more specifically.
of what not to do
Yeah.
at a crime scene. And I don't know if he was trying to get in his head to feel what it's like to commit a heinous crime as homicide, or I don't know what was in his mind. But it's sad. I think the defense needs to look at his mental history.
Oh, yeah.
If there is something there, and there probably is, I bet, in his medical history, any kind of medications that he may have been on.
Once it ever comes out, whether it's from the state or the defense, the psychiatric evaluation, this is going to be a great case to, after it's over with, to go back and do the postmortem of the case, because he's going to be adding a chapter with the other killer, the Ted Bundys, all that, because this is a different
You guys
method.
think this will go to trial, or you think it'll be played out?
No, I think it'll go to trial.
I do too.
And I think it'll be a long, drawn-out trial.
This will be a movie in 5 years.
Sure, if not less.
I think what they're going to use as their defense is the same thing we're praising the police department for doing. They're going to say, well, if you knew it was him, why didn't you arrest him right off the bat?
Do you think there's other victims somewhere?
You'd have to look at the missing persons reports in those areas, and if there's some that are that age and that geographic, but you'd think they would have brought that up. I don't know though. They might be doing like saying, hey, let's keep this close to the, not let it out yet.
It's like the H.H. Holmes murders, the first serial killer in Chicago during the World's Fair in 1898 or 1900 during the turn of the century, where they just one homicide led to another, and they said, oh man, he had dozens and dozens of people he actually killed. And the same thing with Ted Bundy. Once they start investigating, okay,
Boston Strangler, same.
Yep, same thing. It opens up a can of worms, and they solve other murders based on it. And this could have been his first. Hopefully, that's the case, and there's not other bodies out there, victims.
I do find it odd that he had his own car, and his dad came and picked him up and drove him home. Now, how old is he? Is he mid-20s?
Did his dad fly out?
Well, I don't know. He was driving. He was driving.
They flew out and they both
drove that car home. Yeah.
But one report, they said he traveled cross country. Usually, when I say cross country, they mean that he drove an automobile. But if he drove, where did his car go when he drove back?
And it's strange. Did he pick Idaho University just for that criminology program? Or,
no, he was at Washington
State. That's right, or Washington. How did he pick? How did he go from 3 time zones, across country for that college?
To his graduate school.
Yeah. Was it
Perhaps
based on that?
Could have been his grades, his GPA. I don't know the criteria for grad students at the University of Washington. I'm sure they're probably high.
Yeah.
But from everything that I look, this guy's intelligent. He's well read for the most part. I haven't heard him speak, so I don't know as far as that goes. But I think we're going to find that there's going to be so much overwhelming evidence out there that it's going to be mind blowing when it comes out from the police standpoint. But again, the police, they got to get it right. They got to get it right off the bat. And luckily, there's a lot of agencies involved that maybe they can support the Moscow Police Department in their investigation. So
it looks good so far.
It does. I don't have any complaints or issues or questions from what they've done. I think they've worked hard and put together a good, strong case. So, anything else?
Did you guys close 22 good, or you still got cases carrying over? Or?
I got some cases carrying over.
I got one,
yeah.
and we'll open a new case on the 2nd. So
got several, and it's. I'm glad 2022 is gone. I think 2023 is going to be a better year for all of us, and I'm looking forward to it. We just got to get out there and do it. You guys ready for last call here in a minute?
Yeah. Last call.
All right. Thank you
right
again.
Back.
All right. Thanks. Bye. Welcome back, everyone. Monday afternoon roundtable. Last call. What do we got today? What do we got today, Tim? Chase?
We've got the Horse Soldier Reserve. There's different kinds of Horse Soldier. This one is probably the second most expensive one out of the group, behind Commander Select. The company that makes it, or the distillery, is made by some Green Berets that fought in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Cool.
And the reason they do the name Horse Soldier is because when they were in Afghanistan, they had to ride horses.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yep. They got distilleries in Columbus, Ohio, St. Petersburg, Florida, and Somerset, Kentucky. The price for this bottle ranges between $70 and $100. It has an aroma of butterscotch, ginger, and cherries, tasting butterscotch, oak, stone fruits, cola, ginger, and floral notes.
I love those floral notes.
The color is deep amber. Now get ready for this. It's 121.4 proof. And this one is strength barrel proof, which means it's not exactly, each bottle may be a little higher or lower, but this one specifically is 121 proof or 60.7% alcohol. Now another interesting part, the steel that they used to make these bottles, that they made
The cast.
the cast from, is from the Twin Towers of 9/11.
Wow.
No way.
And portions of the profits go to America's Response Monument.
Good.
That's
So-
awesome.
Now,
Good looking
It
bottle,
is.
isn't it?
Yep.
Good
Makes you
looking.
not even want to drink it.
Who's our bartender today?
Brianna, Jason,
Brianna.
Brianna, excuse me. I said Brianna. I always call you Brianna.
Yeah, I know.
Is that not right?
How much I'm going in here? Fill her
Keep
up.
going.
That's
oh,
good. Oh,
I didn't know.
That's David.
Yeah, put about half of that for the rest of it.
Thought you were a bartender.
It's roughly a shot on ice.
I pour beer, not liquor.
Oh, okay. That's right. You work at the tap room.
I believe she's getting.
Novel tap room.
Novel tap room. Let's give it a plug.
A novel tap room in Newton.
Hey, and guess who's going to be there Saturday night? Too
Come
much
on, John.
Sylvia. Tim.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to go.
Smell.
She's dark.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Darker.
Jesus.
Told you I needed to chase it.
Go. All right,
It
salute.
smells pretty good though.
Cheers.
Cheers. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
2023. Thank God.
Kick on the bite.
Pretty
That's
stout.
good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Woo.
I like it. It's strong, of course. But so are those soldiers. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So
I don't think I can.
I like it.
I'm surprised to see you drinking.
This is the only time I drink.
Figured so.
That's true. He doesn't drink much.
I'm developing the taste of it
Yeah.
and just the enjoyment of the tasting and the camaraderie and hanging out.
All right, we got to
It's
give it
got
a
a
score.
good after bite too.
it's it
Yeah, the
gets you.
second was
Alright.
it's still.
It's stout, isn't it?
It's a man's drink.
It is.
I like it.
It is strong.
Woo!
I can feel it going all the way
I know,
down.
the burn.
That cough will go away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. All right, we got to give it a score 1 to 10. 1 being the worst you ever had, 10 being the best. Brianna.
I'm gonna say an 8 for whiskey because I like whiskey and that's pretty good whiskey.
Okay.
If I want to, get down for the day.
Jason.
I'm going to give it a 7.5, and the only reason I'm giving it that look, the taste is great. It is a little stout for what I would normally, and that's just a part. And
Yeah.
if I was more of a recreational drinker, I would be fine with that. But it does have a little bit of a pound to it, and I could, if I drank 2 or 3 of these, I would probably be over my limit.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yes,
Luke.
I agree.
Tim?
I'm gonna go a high 7,
Okay.
low 8.
All right. I'm going to go at 8.5. I like it. I don't think it'd be something that I would just pull up to the bar and order.
Yeah.
It would be a special occasion drink, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's
It's a good looking bottle. It's good package looking.
Yeah.
Be a good bottle for your bar.
It would make a good present for somebody too.
Right.
Just like you said, at a special occasion.
Especially your military guys.
get that for me for next Christmas.
It's bourbon, right? Not whiskey. That's a whiskey.
Well, it could,
It's.
I don't know. I'd have
I
to look
think
at
that's
it.
a
to see.
bourbon whiskey. Isn't it?
Let's see.
What's
Yeah,
the difference?
bourbon.
Can I
Well,
ask
bourbon
that?
whiskey. For it to be a whiskey, it has to be 51% corn.
Okay.
But to be a bourbon, it has to be brewed or distilled in the state of Kentucky originally. It's the way I always
That's-
was
No
taught.
way.
Yeah.
But they, to be, so it's 121.4 proof.
Yeah. I'm gonna need to write
And
it
see,
on.
it varies because they have to handwrite it on there.
Yeah.
So
But
each,
you-
Looking bottle.
Randy, you've heard of Tennessee whiskey,
Yeah.
and you've heard of Kentucky bourbon. So that's
Gotcha.
the way I was always taught. And the connoisseurs out there are going to say, "You don't know
Yeah.
what the hell you're talking about," and I probably don't. But that's just
Yeah.
the way I was always taught.
We don't claim to be professionals. We just
oh yeah,
like
we're
to
just,
drink.
and that's part of the appeal.
Yeah.
We're just the average people, and maybe we could get out of our comfort zone one day, not in the
Yeah.
next couple, and maybe try Scotch whiskey or something like
I,
that.
I do
I
not
would
like
to
scotch.
try.
How about-
Well, I didn't either until I was at a client's here a while back, and he offered me a drink of scotch, and I said, okay. and it was good. I enjoyed it. It was different.
Is it like this tastes like rubbing alcohol? No offense to people who like this drink.
No, it's got
Yeah.
a unique flavor, and it's
No,
an
I mean,
acquired
it's just
taste
that
like any
nectar,
kind.
right?
Next week I'm bringing a brandy.
Okay.
It's an apple brandy,
Ooh.
and so
Is
I'm
it-
not much up on it, but it
Yeah.
Is it local apple brandy?
no, it's store bought apple
Oh,
brandy.
okay. And we used to back in the day, apple brandy was a moonshine.
Yeah.
Where they'd put the apples in with it and let it distill, and it was really good. They did the cherries and different ones.
I didn't say this, but it ranges from the low end of $40 up to $1,000, and the $1,000 fifth of liquor is the Commander's Select.
Would that have the signatures on it? You think?
Yeah, I think it's the
Yeah,
very.
they would let the original horse soldier
This is really cool.
officers,
I think
they'd let those hand sign the bottles.
And
But
it's
that's
got their
a local.
insignia on the top too,
Yeah.
on the engraved
Good looking
glass.
bottle.
Yeah, it is pretty.
It's stout drink. It's like you said, it's a man's drink.
Okay.
It is.
No offense.
It's fine with me.
Flavor's good. It's very strong.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Good,
used to
good
sweet
midwinter
whiskey.
drink.
Yeah.
You can feel the burn in your esophagus.
For all of you that haven't seen Brianna on our previous podcast, you've been on one or two?
Just one.
One. Okay.
I'm procrastinating.
And according to Jason, our ratings went up a little bit.
It went up a lot when she was on there. That's why I
What do you say?
I said the looks look a little better on
Just-
Monday.
I know,
I'm
y'all.
just saying.
My hair looked terrible on the last one, so you probably don't know it's the same person.
So think about this. If you want to see Brianna more, like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube,
And
Spotify,
give us
and
comments.
Facebook page. Comments. Let us know what you want. We've had several comments about drinks that people want us to try.
Okay.
And out of that several, we've already tried.
Tried some of them.
Most of them,
And look us up on Facebook, on our Facebook account that you've started. So
which is growing every week. It gets a little. We're at 240 now, right?
Yep.
and we're still having fun, and that's the key.
Just getting started.
All
This
right.
is our little fun part of the week that we look forward to. A little, break the ice,
Yes.
get away from the office
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and hopefully we're gonna have some guests coming on fairly soon. Some
Yeah.
pretty
We're,
cool.
we're
guests.
going to have hopefully we're going to have a local business owner come in next podcast and talk about local missing persons and unsolved murders.
Should be a good episode.
I'm looking forward to that. And Tim, you got one of your friends coming on board.
Trying our best to get him down. He owns a federal and state firearms company.
Yeah, that we actually went to. That
Correct. Our
Yeah.
our group went and studied with him for a day and had a good time. And if we can, he travels now for the government, setting up the firing ranges for them for that. So if we can get them cleared up and down here, we're definitely going to have them.
I think our listeners will enjoy because I learned so much, and with our over 100 years experience, you'd think we had seen it and heard it all.
Right.
I learned so much that day that we actually you're shooting, but it's in real time with an aggressor.
Correct.
And you're
With
using
real weapons.
with real weapons, and I'm going, how are they going to do that? But it's pretty cool, and he's kind of patented
He has.
that program, so it is awesome. It's good.
He's a local boy too. So he's done well. We're going to
Our
hopefully
law enforcement too.
Yes, retired law enforcement. So we can get him cleared up and get him down here. That'll be a great episode.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank y'all.
Bye.